What's something that's not a cult, but feels like a cult? Salesforce. No, I don't want to build a community. Go hiking or join 100 online classes to learn the basics. Make a couple of well-explained, to the point training videos FFS. Maybe 10, 12 years ago I went to an alumni event for a friend's college and sat next to a guy who worked for Salesforce. I know this because that's how he introduced himself. When I asked what SF was, because it was the early days, he was visibly shocked and just said, I work for Salesforce. Everybody wants to work for Salesforce. Still not quite sure what it does, despite being surrounded by SF offices. But whenever I see an employee walk around with a SF logoed backpack or hoodie, I whisper everybody wants to work for Salesforce. Essential oils. We get it. You're a single mom and you want to work from home. But damn, you guys sure drank the Kool-Aid. No. It's a drink made with lemon essential oil to cleanse my liver, lavender oil which I use in place of my anti-anxiety meds, and just a little bit of grapefruit oil because it's just so good and I'm quirky like that. Please never ever ingest essential oils ever. Beachbody, especially the coaches. The Herbalife organization. They were charged with being a pyramid scheme, but they still operate in a mother-in-law way. There are several people I grew up with who became hooked on it, and they definitely act like they're in a cult. I worked with a Herbalife rep, and we got along well until one day we were talking about the gym, and he was giving me tips. The conversation ended up as a sales pitch for me to buy the products he was selling, and I honestly didn't talk to him much after that. I've had to stop talking to a friend because her BF sells CBD through an MLM. She makes a shit ton of money training and selling horses and is a big name in her profession. Why she lets him do this shit, I do not know. Horse people and MLMs go together like stink and shit for some reason. It seems like after I hit 40 all my trainer instructor friends went the MLM route for a side hustle. Some of them are pretty successful trainers. They bring in lots of money, but stables are expensive to run, so especially the ones that put on the successful act with new trucks, fancy rigs, white Kentucky four-board fence etc. are always on the brink of financial disaster. Maybe that's why they are so susceptible. I dunno. I see it less with my trail riding. Married, rich and has a career. Just has horses as a hobby friends. But the ones trying to make a career out of horses or stay on top in their discipline that don't have a well-off spouse footing the brother-in-law. Holy shit. So many MLMs. Some workplaces. The ones that push the we're all for mother-in-law here attitude especially. I worked in a place that tried to convince the employees we were a for mother-in-law. They basically meant that they would abuse you and expect you to take it. Because for mother-in-law, they actively discourage current employees from socializing with former employees. If an employee left because he was fired, it was because he was a bad example to the others and had to be excised from the group. If an employee left because he got fed up and quit, it was because he was a bad apple anyway, but they had not legitimate reason to fire him yet. Either way, that former employee is no longer one of us and should be avoided at all costs. One employee was chastised for liking too many of a former employee's FB posts. I was employed by a company exactly like this. He was a photographer with his hands in a lot of other things. He hired young, cute women and tried to convince us all we were for mother-in-law while totally ignoring the fact that we had actual for mother-in-laws. When I left, an employee said they had a whole meeting about how terrible I was and they wanted me gone anyway. His online fans think he is just the bee's knees. It drives me insane. This dude emotionally and verbally abused, overworked, and grossly underpaid all of us. Ducking awful. Think it honestly may have given me mother-in-law PTSD. Oh man, you're giving me flashbacks. Old boss was extremely popular with clients, but he followed the same ideals your boss had. We had a very small staff of 4, and quitting time was 5. However, he always took another 10-15 minutes to close up the office. Since he was the manager, the other staff were expected to just sit around and wait for him to finish off the clock, of course, so we could all walk to the station together. Cause for mother-in-law. The kicker was that his place was about 5 minutes from the office by train, and the rest of us were at least 30 minutes away. MLMs, but especially Mary Kay. I went to a convention once as the guest of a consultant because she was trying to get me to join. It was very Stepford. Also, she didn't tell me you were expected to dress up, so I showed up in jeans and a hoodie. Did they actually tell you in advance it was a convention? My experience with that was when my friend gave me the line and asked me if I'd be willing to be a practice model while someone gave me a makeover. It ended up being an hours-long award ceremony where the women wept over how MK changed their lives and made them successful business people. They thought my eyes watering from all the yawning was tears of joy and tried to recruit me. Never did end up getting my makeup done that night. I snuck out as soon as I could. Not makeup, but an insurance scheme thing. This buddy from HS wanted to catch up. We decided to play pool and have a couple of beers. He asked me if I would attend a meeting before we met up. He picked me up and took me there. I knew what was up once we chatted in the car. Still was kind of shady to do it like that. I'm sure they are trained to do it like that, otherwise people wouldn't want to go to the meeting. Edit. Was World Financial Group. The presentation made some sort of sense and I'm sure the products work. I'm just not into it. I have a job. I'm not trying to spend a bunch of my free time on products and services I genuinely don't care about. I have to be passionate about something in order to sell to people, and especially don't like bothering for mother-in-law and friends. Some of us are lambs, some of us are lions. I'm not a lamb. That's essentially what I said to my buddy after we got back into his car to play pool. We hung out a bunch more after that, but then he shortly stopped returning my messages. Nutriboom. Please sign here that you've seen Debbie Stobbelman and find her to be happy, healthy, and alive. X. I just went through at least 24 top replies, and shocked Burning Man isn't listed. Y'all burners are ducking weird. Source. I was one who has critical thoughts about how things work yet have found ideas are only cool if you're popular. This is fascinating. I've wanted to go for a long time for the music and art, but could not stand the vibe people got about it who went. I remember friends going and suddenly totally changing their friend groups, and a friend saying he's cool, he's a burner. It's really sad to me though. I'm a lover of less commercial electronic music and would love to see the amazing art and cars, but I feel like I'd find the burners the most exhausting aspect. Only really because they preach being yourself and yet they all kind of act the same. I love the event, but do I hate people whose whole personality is being a burner. I never join a theme camp. I camp out by 8 and K usually with just one other person in my group. And I mostly go out at night alone to see the lit up art. Occasionally I'll swing by a giant theme camp, but otherwise I just wander through smaller camps and drink at random bars where I like the people. I've had really good luck overall with meeting good people, so I definitely recommend going, but just do your own thing and avoid the plug and play and large theme camp types. I have lived in Pennsylvania my entire life, and it would be hard to convince me that Penn State is not a cult. If you listen to people who have graduated Penn State, you'd know. No other college is as good as Penn State. No other college has sports like Penn State. No other colleges teach subjects like Penn State. No other college has a building like Penn State. No other college allows their students to use the library like Penn State. No other college lets their students use the bathrooms like Penn State. No other college has a roof that stops rain like Penn State. No other college allows students to walk down the sidewalk like Penn State. If any other college has anything, you bet your ass Penn State has it at least twice as good. I hate college pride, and Penn State gets the most of it in my area. Edit. I'm getting all these comments further confirming the existence of the cult of the lion. Call me Kevin's subscribers. It's not a cult. I promise. Millimeters, yes, definitely not the cult of Jimpicans. The Holy Church of CrossFit. I'm a member of the not quite as well known Church of Orange Ethery. If you ask us about proper rowing technique, we'll all start chanting at you. Legs, core, arms, core, legs. Rowing is 60% leg drive, power, patience. When I first joined 2.5 years ago, I came home with my little folder of information and coupons to local businesses, a tote bag, a car magnet, and the heart rate monitor, and said to my husband, "I think I just joined a cult." Curly girl method groups. Flatiron jail. Hair dye jail. Sulfates you right to jail. Silicones right to jail. Right away. No deep conditioning. Believe it or not. Jail. We have the best hair in the world because of jail. Wash it too often. Right to jail. Wash not enough. Believe it or not. Also jail. Edit we have special jail for people who pay to buy Reddit awards. Forced school songs that talk about being a part of the school forever. School spirit. I can understand it for university, but not for high school or below, which I didn't have a choice in attending. I went there because it was the school I ended up being sent to, ergo I should be proud of it. I don't get it. I mean, it's the same thing of being born somewhere and being proud of it. I love my city of mother-in-law Walkie, but it's not like I had much of a choice. AA. I'm an AA. I like AA. It saved my life. But it is cultish a lot of the time. Also in AA, also love AA, also agree. AA is great. If you let it become your new addiction, it will be pretty cult-like. Some people forget we got sober so we could function in normal society. Yup. Can't just hang out in meetings all day and night. It's a bridge back to life. Get off the bridge and get to living. But same here. It saved my life and I love it. 3 years clean from fourth heroin and meth. Meetings were instrumental in my first year, but after that, I felt as though I didn't need them anymore. I slowly stopped going. It's been a little over 2 years since I've been to a meeting, but now I have a job, an apartment, and my driver's license. Feeling pressured to work the steps, get a sponsor, etc., and basically being told if I don't or won't do these things I'll never maintain sobriety was a big reason I stopped going. With that being said, I wouldn't be where I'm at now without those meetings. Working at Amazon. Heck, just interviewing with Amazon feels like an initiation with all the leadership principles and whatnot. The anti-union goons would implant chips they give the overseers, and there is a real son of a bitch. I was in need of some extra money for holidays and looked at getting another gig. I go into the interview mentioning the sim mother-in-law jobs to this one I did in the past, and the minute they saw that I was in a union when doing package handling for apps, they ushered in the cut-off speech of, "Oh wow, you worked there, that's cool. Okay, thanks for stopping by, we'll get back to you in a week." Of course, with no response, I ended up reading an article about all the anti-union shit and spying they do, and apparently there have been people out there who've gotten shit listed because they were in a union before. CrossFit. A friend of mine does CrossFit, and I made the mistake of saying, "I'm glad you found something that works for you." Got a tirade of why it works for everyone. Has he told you that he does CrossFit today? Let me tell you about my WOD and why you really need to go paleo. I physically recoiled when I read this. One of my co-workers is a CrossFitter and he says exactly this crap all the time. Interestingly, though, he's also a young earth creationist who thinks the earth is only 6,000 years old. Like, dude, how can you believe in a paleo diet when you don't even believe that the Paleolithic era ever happened? Eating disorders and any pro-eating disorder sites. Those who have an eating disorder often view their disorder as their best friend, giving them names like Anna and Maya. And then there are those sites to make it worse. They treat eating disorders like they are sacred and often post rules in a cultish way. One site I used to visit in my dark days even had the 10 commandments of Anna. Now, if that doesn't sound cultish, I don't know what does. Don't even make me start about the weightless coaches on there. Edit. I'm glad to read the stories of everyone here who overcame their eating disorder. I'm proud of you. It's a hard journey at any point. I hope that many more people will recover from that disorder. That's why I'm glad that people are here to spread awareness. Thank you. This shit tricked me into it when I was younger. After being called fat for years, which, like, I was maybe a bit chubby, but I have doctor's visits each month because of chronic illness, and I was always at a normal healthy weight. But anyway, I was like, I'm going to start high school and I don't need that shit again. So I looked up how to lose weight quickly and ended up on a pro-Anna site. It had a forum where people could chat and share experiences, and also motivational letters from Anna and Maya. Well, a lonely Insecure girl at the start of puberty. You can imagine what happened. I'm a healthy in regards to weight adult now and still have bad days where I can barely eat. Those sites really ducked me up. Working for a non-profit. They tend to refer to employees as if a mother-in-law working for a cause, which wouldn't be culty on its own, but they definitely use it to manipulate employees to work themselves half to death. Set a culture where boundaries are thought of as not being invested in the mission. They also use your passion for the mission to justify working you harder, paying you less. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love my job and what I get to do, but I'm old enough to see what's been done to me over the years. The rotating door of young employees who are worked to burn out and replaced though, I feel bad for. It's a hard lesson to learn. Edit. Wow. Thank you all for the genuinely kind comments. Feedback commiseration. I had no idea this comment would resonate with so many people. I truly appreciate that you took the time to share your stories with me. Got told we weren't paid a lot because we were doing something we were passionate about. I was one of those that had no boundaries and burned out. Getting my masters to become a NP manager and help stop the burnout culture madness. I'm not really that passionate about what we do. Can I have a raise? Peloton. Seriously, my dad hasn't stopped talking about his since getting it a year ago and went so far as to buy me one for Christmas this year, which is super generous and my fat ass will totally benefit, but feels like I'm being indoctrinated into something. The instructors are really intense and say culty things. I think the idea is to physically torture you to the point that you don't notice you're being programmed to spread Peloton gospel to anyone who will listen. I've been so bored that joining a cult where I get hotter sounds okay though. My mom and I got bikes this year. I love it. And I love the community. But yeah, it's totally a cult. Time to sort by controversial. I didn't know about that cult. Texas A&M University. Edit. My first gold and platinum. Thank you all so much. Also, I'm an Aggie myself. In high school I made a presentation on the traditions at A&M. I covered as many traditions as I could find. My mom went there. My uncles went there. My granddad went there. So early on in life I knew I was going to go there. Right after I finished someone said, "That sounds like a cult." Edit. I didn't end up going there. My grades were not that good and the university I ended up going to had a better physics program for me. As an Aggie, A&M has way too many traditions. More than I can keep track of. The running joke is that if it happens once it's a coincidence, and if it happens twice it's a tradition. Not to mention A&M basically has their own language link. The Order of the Arrow and the Boy Scouts. Technically an approved organization, but it's cultish as heck. It's funny, because they make you do this big induction camp out, and the day after I got back from mine, my English teacher gave a lecture on how to identify a cult, and it hit a lot of red flags. Edit. Good lord. Apparently nothing gets people talking, like reminiscing about being in a cult. I thought someone was calling me because I was getting so many messages. People who own Thermomix machines spend that much on an over elaborate food processor and I guess you need to double down, but man, they just won't shut the duck up about how it changed their life. Oh, cooking is so different for me now. Oh, it's just so convenient. Having said that, I did once go to a Thermomix party where they try to mind wash you into they're not a cult. Because the lady that invited me was recently divorced and pretty hot, and I figured why not give it a shot. I never particularly liked her ex-husband, so could have been a multi-bird stone throw. I barely made it out alive without my wallet being light and a couple of grand, man. The sales pressure was intense. Oh my god, I used to sell Thermomix for a US startup retailer thing. There's only one company that does that in the US, but they fired me in a really weird way, so duck their social media rules. I think one of the things people don't realize is that Thermomix is a MLM. We couldn't sell stock directly out of the store. We had to refer people to a rep in New York who would get the customer one. We were located in a mall, so every once in a while someone from Thermomix would set up in our store and do cooking demonstrations. I was talking to one of the girls and she said she was actually a nurse and didn't work directly for Thermomix. She just got a kickback when they were sold. The actual machines worked and were pretty indestructible in my opinion. But they made really small serving sizes and were kind of like the culinary equivalent of ridiculously over-engineered multi-tools that people at trashy seaside tourist traps try to sell 13-year-old Boy Scouts. I tried to snag the display model once it broke due to a customer dropping it, but apparently neither my store nor Thermomix actually owned it. It was some rando owner that we gave it back to a weird company. Our mechanical keyboards. Some fandoms, especially K-pop fandoms. Disney. If you've ever known anyone who has worked at Disneyland, they will talk your ear off about how it's the happiest place on earth and how lucky they are to work there. Well, pre-pandemic,